to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of nonsense and a whole lot of football. Maybe. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy From Afar, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Chuck Bailey and super producer, Ian Stimson. Boys, how we doing this week?
And welcome to another episode of Insufferable Podcasters, because their teams won against teams that they fucking hate.
Mine didn't, you fucker.
Ian, imagine if we'd have opened the season with a three-win sandwich, like a triple-decker, an absolute triple-decker delight. And not only did you not win your first league game to fucking Accrington, named after a bloke down the pub, Stanley, you also are out of the Carabao Cup. So Didn't want it. Just
concentrate on the league, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys coming up this year finally? What's the deal?
It's happening. Oh, it's happening. It's revenge. It's the revenge season.
Yeah?
Get revenge on the rest of the EFL that voted that we couldn't play games financially without fans, so we had to end the season. And then when we
now all the fans are in.
It's fine now. Doesn't matter. Now the new season started. That doesn't matter anymore. Fuckers.
Oh, he's had a pint of bitter. Fucking hell.
Very bitter.
Be careful, mate, just in case your team gets altitude sickness.
What's your keeper situation at the Posh? We might have one available soon, and he seems about the right quality, so...
I think I'll stick with Christy Pym, thank you.
Yeah. Genuinely, would you take Kepa?
Absolutely not. No way do I don't want Flappy Bird near my team.
Well,
no, you guys, Guaita had himself a fucking week. You have a much better keeper than us.
Best Spanish keeper in the league, mate.
That was directed at our League One team.
Well, I suppose it'd be nice to, give Pym a little bit of competition for the position, but other than that, I can't see him getting in.
Oh, man. We'll get to the Chelsea stuff later, but Tim Howard made his big debut for the NBC analysis team this year.
Woo!
Which is great because he was on a different network. I think maybe Fox. I don't know, but he was wasted. He's really, really eloquent and smart. And he spent most of his bit after the Chelsea match just being like, "Fucking Kepa, man, jeez."
Really?
Yeah,
that's amazing. Love that.
He was like, when you're on a top team, you only have one or two saves to make, and he seems to let all of them in, even if they're not good.
Worst save percentage in the league.
He's conceded, I was saving this stat for later, but he has conceded 9 goals on the last 13 shots he has faced.
I've got that written down.
Ian had that written down, of course.
I had it screenshotted as well on my phone.
That is a great stat. It's not. It's a terrible stat.
No, it's fantastic. I think, was it 47% save percentage
I
or
don't
something
know, man.
last year?
I try to
Worst, yeah, you do. You fucking do. It's embedded in your psyche.
I've got another one. He's conceded more goals from outside the box than any other goalkeeper since he joined Chelsea.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just of course, yeah.
It's the Wayne Hennessy effect. Teams know that his positioning is terrible. His reflexes are terrible. His athletic ability is terrible. His willingness to go ahead with substitutions is terrible. His face is terrible.
When Leeds play Chelsea and Bielsa's been looking at them videos, they're just going to be shooting from the halfway line consistently.
Oh, big time. Well, hopefully by the time they play us, we'll have a different person in the sticks. Actually, I think no matter whether we sign someone or not, we're never seeing Kepa again. He was back on his bullshit. He flopped or flapped. What's the verb there? I don't know. Came for a cross and just wildly missed it. He kept it. Yeah, he kept it. And that wasn't even a good shot. Anyway, whatever.
This counts as the Chelsea chat, by the way. It's done.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Finished. Proof that nominative determinism is a myth.
No keeper, is he?
Well, if you are joining us for the first time this season, welcome to Season 3 of the Miles Offside podcast. As you can already tell, we're not particularly intelligent, but we do talk about soccer anyway. But we are happy to have you on board. If you came back from last year or even Season 1, any of you OGs out there, thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate it. So happy to have you. And if you know a friend who's looking for a Premier League podcast, this seems like a good time of year to tell them about how very, very dumb we are, but hopefully entertaining.
But can I ask that you skipped last week's Premier League preview because we said a lot of shit that a couple of days later.
I had some good takes last week. I'm very happy with how that went.
Two things, though. One, if you're with us because of our Marvel special, thanks for sticking around. if you're still waiting for us to talk about comic books again, maybe if we go into lockdown again and football ends, who knows? And second of all, I want to caveat this entire podcast for today and the rest of Twitter and say that after one game week of football, no one has learnt basically anything. All their takes are hot. They're all over the shop. Nothing means nothing. You can't be an absolute prick for getting one thing wrong in one game week. And you can't have all the drama because Jamie Vardy scored a couple of penalties and maybe someone else put him in their FPL team and, that's basically luck and cheating. Yeah, sad act.
Fast forward 10 minutes when Chuck is just having all sorts of hot takes and giving me shit for my takes off of game week 1.
Yeah, so I want to make sure and make it very clear that all of my takes today will be very measured, which is why I'm happy to announce Crystal Palace are going on the European tour. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Now, before we get to the football, we do have to talk a little bit of nonsense. Chuck, you mentioned Marvel. I haven't actually asked you, how's that new Avengers game? Is it good? Tell the people what to do.
It's good. But one day we'll get into football inside 10 minutes, guys. I'm really sorry. It's good. It feels a bit like a RPG-ish kind of cross between like an Uncharted game with sort of the Marvel stuff put in. It's interesting that the dynamics are different for each character. But I think because it is different to what we're used to with superhero games, i.e. the Arkham games and Spider-Man, that are kind of a tiny bit more open world, and as well the combat is kind of rigid in that once you learn some button combos, everything is just about timing and those kind of bits. That part is more complicated. And it does kind of feel like the leveling up an equipment system is just a bit of like a add it in after for no real reason. But by and large, the story's really cool. It's good. I'm enjoying it. I'm not really playing it a lot. I'm about to go on holiday. Woo! I'm probably not.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. That's the episode this week.
Yeah. Chelsea's keeper situation, League One, and some computer game.
Perfect. Spot on. That's very on brand. All right. Let's get to the actual football. We are foregoing rapid fire news this week because it's just a bit much. And we're too excited about the matches. So we'll come back with rapid fire news for those of you that were hoping to see it this week. Next week. But let's just go ahead and get right to the football. First game of the season, Saturday morning and or afternoon or night if you're in Australia, wherever you are in the world at some point on Saturday.
Just say the first fucking
First game of the season.
And I'm never going to change. Fulham 0, Arsenal 3, Fulham 0.1 to Arsenal's 2.2 on XG. Ooh. Gentlemen, a convincing win from Arsenal. How are we feeling about that?
Okay, I'd like to take back my earlier caveat in that, we knew a lot about Fulham.
Yes.
We knew what Fulham was going to be.
I did say they were going to be by far the worst defense in the league, and conceding 3 to a mid-table team is not a good way to start the season.
I mean, they performed to their numbers. Give them that.
Yeah, 0.1, because, that's about
zero.
right. Yeah.
That's math, baby.
I think the big story here for Arsenal fans probably would be to talk about, they want us to talk about Willian a little bit. He did look very sharp, very, very quick to get out of the gate there for Arsenal. 3 assists, I believe, right? 2 or 3 assists.
3? Yeah, well, the first one, like, it's given as an assist, but it was, he had a shot, the keeper saved it, it went down to Lacazette. So
a bit scrappy, but officially an assist.
It's what level of assist you feel that is. But it was very clear that everything is kind of being put through him. He's just kind of being given the middle of the park and going, you want to drift right? You drift right. You want to drift left. Stay on the ball, do whatever. And he's just pinging passes to people left, right and centre. So it's interesting to see him in that position because for Chelsea for so long, he was playing on the wing. And
sticking to the wing for the most part too.
Yeah, and as his age gets up, the natural thing of a winger is being able to have the pace and beat people, and it's kind of the first things that start to go when he's 31, 32, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And so it saw him a bit revitalised, which probably hurt you a little bit, Oscar, but was good to see. It's interesting for like FPL managers and those kind of things. If we are going to mention news, shall we talk about that Arsenal fans are probably happy that they're not losing a player on a free transfer or announcing a contract renewal like it's the biggest signing in the world? Does it show that they're kind of done for the summer?
Oh, really? You've taken that to be their big transfer business, just keeping Aubameyang?
I mean, when you're doing videos saying, like, I want to be the greatest at Arsenal, I look to Thierry Henry and, like, there's interviews with Henry and Bergkamp, like, spliced into it, and then Tony Adams. It does say to me, like, look, guys, we've learned from the mistakes of the past. We're not just going to give people expensive contracts and let them run them down and leave for free. We might keep some of our good players. I don't know. But, yeah, it feels like it's done. But Arsenal, they done the job. They done the wins.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to the Chelsea perspective here. Watching Willian in an Arsenal shirt was pretty upsetting. Like, I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't. He was a really good player for Chelsea. Maybe not so much in the last couple of years, although his Project Restart run was phenomenal.
Pew!
But seeing him in Arsenal was gross. It just didn't feel right. I would say that no matter how good he plays this year, I still think it was the right decision to let him go.
Yeah.
Given his age, given the players that we have sort of coming in behind him, / coming in from internationally this year, I'm glad he's doing well because I do have love for him from his Chelsea time. He won Chelsea Player of the Year as many times as Eden Hazard did. Like, he wasn't nobody at this club. But I wish he wasn't doing well for Arsenal specifically. But it's just one match, so,
We joke about Fulham, but these aren't the kind of games they're going to target. But with Scott Parker not having sort of any experience relatively in terms of management, you don't know. It'd be interesting to see when they start to play. I think they play Leeds next week, don't they? Yes. So obviously they played Leeds last season, probably lost both times, but at least this opposition they know. And so it's kind of, that's when you start to see it's interesting and how they adapt their game and how they actually play. They didn't have Mitro in there. They're kind of a lot of players came back from loan that they loaned out during the Championship season. So now they've come back to play Premier League again. But I still worry about Fulham. I still worry about them a lot.
I turned to Emily during this match and I said, this is going to sound like a piping hot take and a ridiculous thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I genuinely believe that they're like, with a shout, could set the record for the worst team in Premier League history.
I mean, it's 11 points though, Oscar. Like,
it's so low.
It's
so low.
It's incomprehensibly low. Like, we always go, we've in recent memory, we've had Huddersfield in our league, and they haven't even done that. Like, this team, to me, it doesn't look or sound worse than Huddersfield.
I can't think of a weaker promoted team in many years.
And there's still time for them to strengthen. It's only one game. I know you've got the numbers from the Championship to back you up as well, but
yeah, you've got facts. We've got eyes.
I've got a vague feeling that they might be all right. No, I'm just saying
Ian's
it's only one.
Questionable guts.
That's a horrible feature. But I've just got. I think what I'm saying is that it does just feel like it's one game. They have had recent Premier League experience, and they've still got time to strengthen.
Sure, so, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not making that take off of the back of a 3-0 loss to Arsenal.
Yeah.
As much as like the bigger sort of everything about them, but yeah, it's. We should give them time, I guess. Give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not inclined to because I'm a Chelsea fan, so fuck them. But
yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that massive rivalry that the two teams have because they've
they're really close. The stadiums are real close.
Competition for so many years now.
Yeah. All right, let's move on then to the next match, and that would be...
What match was that?
Crystal Palace underperforming, Chuck. 1.4 XG to 1. And Southampton 1.3 scoring 0. So actually probably should have been a draw according to the underlying numbers. But Palace winning to start off the season. Palace have young players. Palace have attacking players. Palace looked fun. Chuck, how massive is your Palace boner right now? Like, what are we talking? Hard as Valyrian steel or soft as a noodle? Like, where are we at?
It's red and blue.
I'm considering getting medical advice because it's been a while. It's starting to ache a little bit. No, very good, very good. First of all, generating the XG required to score a goal.
Yeah.
Not only that, but generating more than the XG required to score that goal. Outperforming the other team in terms of that kind of generation in play. I don't want to go into about two stats. And carrying on defensively, it's mad. I mean, taking the game as a whole, Southampton the first half, like they were on the ball, but they were incredibly sluggish and slow. Like it was really weird. And Palace, Townsend showing not last year's Townsend, but the year before, Zaha doing the same and actually linking up, and Townsend playing crosses that he plays into the box quite a lot. But this time there were two players in the box to get on the end of it. And Zaha, drifted away. They exploited the space behind Kyle Walker-Peters, and he played a great volley that he took time with, measured, slotted it straight in. It was fantastic. But Southampton didn't really, they controlled the game the first half, but they didn't really have anything going for them. Then the second half came out, and it was the Southampton of Project Restart that we were all saying about how phenomenal a job Hasenhüttl has done, and how they were quick, and they were looking a lot more coherent, and they were exposing Palace a touch. It was down to Guaita making 2 fantastic saves. I think it was one off Adams and one off Ings. From really point blank, that it's such fine margins that we're looking at a Southampton 2-1 win probably.
Those were really phenomenal saves too, outrageous saves.
Insane. But you look across the team, I mean, our centre-back pairing was arguably our 5th best centre-back and a central defensive midfielder.
Yikes.
Our right back was Joel Ward, who we've said before, he's not the future, but as he showed in that game, perfectly serviceable to do the job. On the left, we had Tyreek Mitchell, who, people in their fantasy teams have put him in because he's 4.0. He's, it won't be long before he's touted as being the next Wan-Bissaka, but I don't quite think he's at his level of sort of free and thrown in the team. But he's very much still a deputy to PVA. Eze didn't start, Michy didn't start, and so past that, it was very much still kind of the same team as we played with last year, but there was just seemed to be so much more hunger and desire and to exploit a weakness. I mean, I already said before, Kyle Walker-Peters and, very much like what happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool that we'll get to, was so far advanced that it was just easy to play little balls over the top, and Zaha was in an acre of space, and using that clever insight from Hodgson to make sure that Zaha did that, and he just looked like he wanted to play again, and so it was fantastic. And then once Eze came on for the last 15 minutes or so, 15 to 20, just having another player who could create something, could do something. I mean, he put Walker-Peters on his arse. Fair enough, then he played a Balassi level cross over the top. But Southampton, but what doesn't show at the end of that is Southampton were just and you think it goes out for a throw-in, but no, Zaha's just stood there and just uses it to run out the time and whatever. But just having that freed up, it meant that Southampton couldn't triple team Zaha, and just gave that extra option. And I mean, it looks like the way he plays, everything slows down when he has the ball a bit. He's a very relaxed player, which reminds me slightly of a Dele Alli. Sometimes it could come across as laziness, but it's more that's just how their pace works. And he'll probably get caught out a few times, but it's interesting to then have that different dynamic of them when he can beat someone. But yeah, really positive signs. Really positive, especially going forward. We're playing Bournemouth in about an hour and a bit. Obviously, that will be a rotated side in the Carabao. And then a game against United at the weekend. And genuinely think that we could win it. I mean, we won at Old Trafford last year. Man United, of course, they've improved with Bruno and those kind of things. They've played one pre-season game, which was a 1-0 loss to Villa on Saturday. And so hopefully, with a few more players ingrained and just simply the fact that we've had a bit more time, that we can do something there. And it'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, last time we recorded was 2 weeks ago? And it was
nearly.
very, very different picture for Palace. I think because you guys hadn't signed Eze, you hadn't signed Michy, there was not much doing.
And the Batshuayi thing came very much out of nowhere. And it was weird because I even messaged you guys saying I thought it was strange that nothing had come out. And then literally the next day, something had happened because we were in for Conor Gallagher, who was going to come from Chelsea on loan. But you can only have one loan player from any one club now.
Right.
Domestically anyway. And so it seemed to be like Palace actually had multiple options. And once they had gone in for Gallagher, they knew then that potentially the forward target would be a player like Ollie Watkins, who now Villa have bought for up to 33 million, I think, with add-ons, which is huge. And so because that option then switched, I think it then became about, okay, well, let's get a striker in on loan to cover. Batshuayi got offered and changed his mind. And all of the stuff that came out, it was over the space of about 3 days, I think, and then it was just done. And he was giving these amazing interviews where he's saying, like, I feel like I'm home. I know the people here. I know what it's about. And it's good vibes, man. This is like what you felt like last year. Like, it's just good vibes.
Absolutely. And I think you guys might end up, after all of those transfers and everything, making me and Ian's relegation prediction look very, very silly.
I mean, we're 1 in of 38.
Sure. But I don't care about the result as much as like you described, the different outlets that you guys had in attack compared to last season. I think last season I kept being like, where the fuck is Andros Townsend? And you were like, I don't know. He just kind of disappeared and or was injured. But the year before, like, he did provide sort of relief for Zaha to be able to do more.
Yeah.
And he showed that this week, and then now you have Eze. You might be getting Benarama, right? Like, that's the new sort of rumor.
Yeah, man. Andros coming back, like, I think if we can get, if he can get, like, if you get 5 goals out of a player like Andros Townsend, that, although it doesn't sound like much, if that scales up across your forwards, then you're going to have a good year. So say, like, if we did sign Ben Rama, which would be quite a good coup because he's very much the kind of Palace player, like very flair, attack-minded, can just be a bit like a Maverick in terms of we'll just do a few things and do some wizardry and then create the space. He had a fantastic year last year. I think he got close to 30 combined goals and assists in the Championship. Something it feels like about 9 goals, 17 assists. And Eze had similar kind of numbers going in. And so if you have a player like Townsend and Benrahma, who let's say you get about 5 or so goals off each, and then you have Eze, you get 5. You have a Jordan Ayew, Zaha, you get about 10 off each. And then you've got a player like Michi, who, based on his kind of goals per minute across his career, you're kind of looking maybe at about a 15 minimum.
Yeah. It's certainly in the cards if he can stay healthy and find some form.
Right there across those 5-6 players, that's potentially, what's that maths, 45-ish goals. Well, we scored like 31 last year.
Right.
So and I know people will laugh and say, but it's Palace, whatever, but having those estimations of players isn't unrealistic.
No, right? And it's also not something you've been able to say for years. So like it really is a fundamental change for you guys.
But it's simple. Like you look at Chelsea under Antonio Conte, right? Oh no, sorry. Chelsea under Maurizio Sarri. They were still a good team, but once other teams identified that everything goes through Jorginho and they shut him down, like the whole system just fell apart and it became a bit of a mess and painful for you, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that's just the exact same thing that's happened with Palace and Zaha.
Right.
For a few years. Like, if you've got one creative outlet who is the best player on the team, who the game plan is simply give it to him, see if he can do some magic, go, and then you just triple team him or foul him out the game or do whatever because he has this image as a diver, even though he doesn't, and how he whines, but you would too if you had lumps fucking kicked out of you consistently in the top 2 most fouled players in the Premier League for the last 5 years. I think the only people that have had more than him were Eden Hazard and Jack Grealish. And so those kind of players says it kind of all, really, like key points to the team. And so if you just have even just one other option in that kind of mould, teams cannot do it because you'll just get exploited, especially a team like Palace with pace on the counter-attack. I never expected to go for this long, especially...
Yeah, it's been like 20 minutes.
Especially in a match that was really even. And so, I mean, I laughed because even though it was last season, it only took about 43 seconds for the Southampton 9-0 to be mentioned.
Poor bastards. When is that going to stop from? But it is relevant because Southampton had a really good post-lockdown period. Everyone's been saying, they're going to be sort of top 10 team for sure. And,
I don't worry about him. I don't worry about him off that. I think it's I think it's that one was very much if just a couple of things, if you don't have a keeper making unbelievable close range saves from within 6 yards.
Yeah. No, I'm not suggesting this game should be an indicator that Southampton are done. I'm just saying, what we were saying before of, the outlook's not great for Crystal Palace, but Southampton probably going to finish top half. And then a game like this, it just does give you something to sort of hang your hat on a little bit, doesn't it? That good times are here, perhaps.
And the difference between 16th place and 9th place is 2 good signings. It's not that big of a gap. You know what I mean? And then Palace have done the business. I think we might have to start calling you guys Analytics FC at some point because you're just signing people that are little gem darlings in the analytics community, like Mishi and Benarama. Like, these are guys that other people are looking at Palace and being like, fuck, that's good business. Like, what the fuck, man?
Mm. And the good thing is, like, the Ben Rama stuff, it doesn't mean... Like, the Michi signing is also, it seems to me, a bit of like a placate Zaha. Not a replace Zaha, but placate him, because they absolutely fucking loved each other and they had a really good connection going when Michi was here last time. And so putting Ben Rama in doesn't, again, everyone will ask every time Palace make a signing, oh, that means Zaha is off. Like, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't. If all of a sudden you see a massive, massive intent, like, potentially he stays. And if we do sign Ben Rama and some of the other players that we're being linked with and get those reinforcements, it wouldn't be the end of the world then if Zaha went, because you've still got creativity then spread across the team. At some point to level up, you know, if you've got one player who's 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the team, but you can sell him and level up 3 positions, like, by 1 and another position by 2, well, then that's what you need in the Premier League. Because otherwise, if you lose one player, you're fucked.
And, like, obviously this is at different levels, but that's what Liverpool did when they sold Coutinho, right? They turned him into Salah and Mane. And that's what Chelsea are doing with Hazard. Like, we turned him into a whole bunch of good players. And so, like, sure, it's sort of one level down in terms of the financials of that. Like, you didn't get 200 million or you wouldn't get 200 million for Zaha, but, like, turning that money into or well spent, as opposed to, like, other clubs, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but other clubs, Spurs after Bale, selling a superstar and then spending it poorly on your Nasser Chadleys of the world, like...
Nasser Chadley, Vlad Kirikesh, Roberto Soldado, Paulinho, and Christian Eriksen.
That one worked out okay, but...
Did it?
Yeah, not the best one turned
Speaking of Liverpool, I guess we should move on after 45-ish minutes of Palace.
Whatever his name, the wrestling commentator would say, Jim Ross, oh boy, this was a slobber knocker.
Yes, it was. Absolute, hands down, best match of the weekend. We had Liverpool 4, Leeds 3, Liverpool 3.2 on XG, Leeds 0.3. Scoring 3 of 0.3, but that was an entertaining match.
Is that because Patrick Bamford is so wasteful that his shot was attributed minus 1.7 XG? Because it's just like, he's just never going to score. And like, I'm calling him the waste man. He's the waste man. Or the bin man. Because he's garbage. That's his nickname.
Okay.
You're really not happy with
Bamford?
No,
I don't like him. And I love the fact that his price has already gone up in FPL. Brilliant. Yeah, it shows that people know nothing. But yeah, Leeds just targeted the fact that, what I've been saying for years, Trent Alexander-Arnold can't defend. And if he isn't getting the attacking output in the game, which he didn't, Robertson looked far, far more ready to play in this one, that they just kept going, okay, we'll just dink balls over the top and then have our players sprint in. And it was just doing that way each and every time. And it was madness that it was just like a formulaic way of, this is how we're going to score against you. This is what Bielsa's spent 84 hours with binoculars looking at.
Did he rent a house next to their training ground?
Yeah, probably. And then Liverpool get 4 set-piece goals, which the first one shouldn't have been a penalty, guys. It shouldn't have. Yeah,
go ahead and talk about that, because you were kind of going off on that a little bit. Let's hear it.
Rules changed this year, right? Some rules have changed. The offside rule has not changed. The only thing with the VAR offside is that they will not show on the TV the people drawing the lines. They will only show the final result.
Oh, okay,
they've already said that rule, like, we've got to go through another 2 full seasons before they'll change that rule about the if your toenail's offside, you're offside kind of thing. But because of last year with those goals where it was like a player falls and it touches his arm and then 17 seconds later someone scores and it comes back and kind of killing the game, or giving silly penalties for ball coming off a player's head and hitting their arm, and they would have no way at the speeds and that of the game of doing that deliberately and it being accidental. They've kind of changed the laws. So one of which is, if it comes directly off of another part of your body, like it always did, and then hits your arm, it's not going to be given as a penalty. Well, that's exactly what happened 3 minutes into the game, is the ball comes off of Cox's thigh. We're going to have a lot of fun with that this year. Directly off of his thigh, and then hits his arm. Now, his arm is in a natural position because he's moving to his right with his leg, and when you move, your arms come out. it bounces off his thigh and hits straight up into it. So VAR should have looked at it and then, based on the new laws, not given a penalty. So Liverpool is back.
Yeah.
But also, fun Liverpool, where they have to score 4 because they're going to concede 3, is back as well. So I don't know. It's kind of a combination of the 2 seasons.
There is to totally just change direction, because I agree with everything you said and don't really have anything interesting to add.
Don't want to aggressively agree for 20 minutes?
Yeah. This match, and also the Chelsea one, but I feel like I'm going to have plenty enough to say about Chelsea, so I'll bring it up here.
Oh, Jesus Christ, we're still so far away from Chelsea.
Hey, we gave you 25 minutes about Palace, all right, my dude? Like, you know.
You get about 80 minutes each week on fucking Chelsea.
Yeah, sure. No, Liverpool 4, United 3. Obviously, the XG showed very, very bad. 0.3 XG for Leeds scoring 3 is kind of crazy. But this year, I've been trying to sort of expand a little bit beyond just like standard XG and just getting like...
Beyond just your waistband expanding.
Yes. Cheers. Thanks. Well, the genesis of this was that I read an article, and it's perfect that we're talking about Liverpool, on The Atlantic about their analytics team and the head of their analytics department.
The Atlantic?
The Athletic? The Athletic. Sorry, I always say the wrong one.
The Pacific?
Who, by the way, has a doctorate in astrophysics from Harvard. And now he does stats work for Liverpool. Like, that's how fucking good their analytics team is. They were like, fuck astrophysics and theoretical, like, academia. Come work for us. It'll be fun.
Who gives a shit about space? Come look at footballers.
Exactly. But they described some of the models that they have behind closed doors within. They obviously didn't go into the methodology or anything like that because it's all proprietary. But the description of all the different things that they're capable of doing. And there was another article they linked to about Chelsea's analytics team and what they're doing. I was like, fuck, man. These clubs are like way past XG. Like, this is like years and years into the future that we will be getting this stuff in the sort of like public sector of analytics. And so I've been making more of an effort to sort of expand and look at different numbers. Chuck's already rubbing his eyes because he's falling asleep. That's fine. And there's one number that I really like at 538 because they're super good at stats, and it's their adjusted goals metric. Now, they don't tell you what the methodology is, but the basic idea of it is that it kind of like non-shot XG. It's taking into account a lot more things than just like, was there a shot and where was it? And it almost always like pretty much perfectly matches up. Wolves 2-0, 2.1 to 0. Tottenham, Everton 1-0, 1.1 to 0. But there were 2 that sort of really, really varied from XG. And one of them was this. Their adjusted goals was 4.2 to 3.2. And so that is fascinating to me when they have leads at 3.2, but their XG was only 0.3. Like, there's such a fundamental difference there. And it's just like, what is that model picking up that XG isn't? And so that's definitely something for me, at least, to sort of keep an eye on as we go through. Chelsea was the other one.
It's got to be some sort of algorithmic kind of, almost like a viewing bias. It's like, I won't rip on him for it, but Bamford scored from, it was about the edge of the box, right?
Yeah.
It was close to there. So, obviously, in a vacuum, if you look at a shot from the edge of the box, it's going to have probably a 0.2 XG, 0.15, something like that.
If even, yeah.
But you look at the situation, a defender's made a mistake, which has played the ball across, the goalkeeper's diving and probably isn't going to get there, he's taken the touch from there, and he's basically got an open goal. So then you look at it as if you watch it in the game, that's when you say, like, oh, he's definitely going to score.
Like, absolutely.
So then it probably puts it up to a 0.8. So instantly, if you've gone from a 0.1 to a 0.8, that then scales across the match.
Yeah, and I know they also look at like what the score is when a shot is taken, because some shots or some goals scored are going to be more valuable than others for different reasons, what minute it is and all that sort of stuff. And for the most part, it like very, very, very closely matches up. I was looking at their numbers from last year as well to the actual matches, but then once in a while, like the XG just totally misses out on something. And I think that's part of what was going on with Leeds here, because they actually would make it look ridiculous, but the eye test did kind of have it at 4-3 not being that absurd. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but for me, it did seem like I didn't look at 4-3 and was like, oh my God, Leeds really got away with 3 goals there. I was like, Liverpool were better, but like not infinitely better, not 4-0 better. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. That's something to keep an eye on. But I found it interesting that they had it at 4-3 with their adjusted goals, even though the XG was super duper low.
It's a weird one about this, the different XG models you're talking about there, because this is going to make me sound really dumb, but I'm just going to go with it.
Why change the habit of a life?
But, well, exactly. When you get to a point where something is showing you almost exactly what happened with the goals, what's the point? Like, what's the point of it? If it's getting to the point where it's basically showing you the scoreline anyway, what's the point of the stat sort of thing? The XG feels like because it sometimes differs from the actual scoreline. You can use it to say, oh, this team played better, put themselves in better positions. If you get to the point where stats are just ultimately coming out with what the scoreline of the game was, what's the point of it?
That's probably the smartest thing you've ever said.
Absolutely.
Like you coming in, right, you prefacing that with "this is going to sound really dumb" is almost like when people go, "Oh, only got 97 points in FPL with 5 players to play." Is that
no,
good?
Fuck those people.
Is that good? I'm not sure.
Fuck those people.
Yeah, that's true because you can't infer anything from it. If it's just the same as the score, you're like, okay, and especially if it's behind closed doors. Like, I don't know. I was going to put it in a more kind of truck way of saying, if they're not showing the methodology, could they just make it up after the fact and just put in, okay, Liverpool Leeds finished 4-3, so we're going to put 4.2, 3.3. Okay, we all agreed. We're all agreed. Done.
I just threw up in my mouth at the thought of someone respectable doing that. Anyone at 538 just being like, no one knows, right? Let's just
no one knows.
Horrible.
Plus or minus 0.2. Let's see what happens.
To sort of go back to Ian, to your point, I think, first of all, yes, that was an incredibly insightful and smart thing to say, so I'm with Chuck on that. From the stats side of it, what you want in a model is one that is correct 99% of the time and then has something interesting to say about the 1% where it's different. Because you do want to be able to predict stuff, like especially from the club side of it. And that's why XG is so preferred compared to anything else we have in the public domain. It's the most predictive.
But
and so then when there's like one or two teams...
But that's what... Do people use it to predict? So, like, they'll say, well, this is Leeds. They tend to get this many XG in a game and they're playing this... I don't know. Or is it more you use these things to point out where certain players are getting into certain positions?
You probably get
I don't
a
know.
more reliable base to build things off of. So if you're doing expected points just as XG versus XG, like Oscar said before, doing his own one, like it's kind of changes the way it is and can not show the whole story because you don't have a consistency, right? You could have, for 5 games, Liverpool generate 5 XG, but they play the 5 most recently promoted teams, or the 5 teams that are nailed on to hit 20th to 18. And then you have Man City only generate 1, but they play 2 to 5 in that time. And so on the model, you'd be like, oh, so this is... You see what I mean? You don't necessarily get the full information of what is correct. So I suppose it just kind of gives a base. And I suppose it's more interesting maybe for player transfers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think
that's where it comes into it.
For sure, absolutely 100%. And especially the more like proprietary stuff that the clubs have that's a little more advanced than XG, like they really, really know how to isolate like player performance and player value, and that's why Liverpool has been so good at recruiting and all that. XG is useful in 2 different ways, I would say. And this is a great conversation to have for a first episode of the season for people that are catching on new. Love an XG explainer. Let's get into it.
It sounds like we know stuff because we're actually talking about sports and analytics, but we don't.
Well, a little, sometimes.
Okay, Oscar does. Oscar really does, but he doesn't like to show how much he knows. I blag, and Ian is just...
Will one time in 3 seasons stumble onto something intelligent, apparently.
Eventually, if you leave enough monkeys in a room with typewriters.
They type Shakespeare.
You know what I mean? Or a lot of feces.
Both, preferably. Maybe typing in feces. Who knows? Now they sound like us.
Okay.
Just write it down a note. Feces equals first 101 episodes.
There you go. In the short term, XG is really, really useful for describing how well a team played. Because, I mean, everybody has an intuitive sense of like, oh, he really should have scored that. That was an open net, a sitter, versus like someone scores from the 50-yard line and you're like, what an amazing goal. That only goes in 1 in 1,000 times, right? And so like a scoreline, especially on a game-by-game basis, can be really misleading. As opposed to XG, doesn't care who it was, who you were playing. It's just a description of like a measure, I should say, of how many quality chances you created. And so that's useful as a descriptor in the short term. 1 or 2 games, 5 games, whatever. In the long term, in the course of an entire season, especially when you're looking at sample size for a couple of seasons, that's where it becomes useful as a predictor. So, for example, a podcast host might use XG to win the predictor league in a random year because it is the most predictive thing. Like you can look at shots, you can look at goal difference, you can look at anything, but of all the stuff that we currently have, the thing that most closely correlates to final table position the next year is some combination of XG and the amount of money that they are spending not on transfers, but on wages. If anyone reads the book Soccernomics, highly recommend it for anyone who has a sort of interest in stats type stuff, but they did a really good study in there, or they cited a really good study in there that showed that, like, it doesn't really matter what your net spend is, it doesn't matter what your transfers are, it matters how much you're paying players, because generally speaking, that much more closely correlates to their quality.
Are you trying to say that money incentivizes people to work harder?
Yes, I am.
You absolute capitalist.
I mean, I am American, so.
Well,
but yeah, so like that's where XG is predictive, is like over the big picture, and in the small picture, it's sort of descriptive, I think. But yeah, any other stats questions? I love this. This is fun.
No.
Not that I can think of. I think I might
I was just trying to think of how we're now going to need to barrel through the next fixtures, but to be honest...
Well, no one gives a shit about Newcastle West Ham. Newcastle won by 2. Whatever,
I predicted it as 2-0 Newcastle. West Ham is shit. They don't want to play anymore. That club's about to collapse.
There you go.
Mark Noble came out and tweeted about how the club is so poorly fucking run.
Yeah, someone of Mark Noble's temperament and like absolute club manness doing that is a big deal.
It's insane, absolutely insane, that Newcastle can play a game against the team and not be the worst run club in the stadium.
or the worst club on the pitch either. Like, both of those things.
To be fair, yeah.
Insane. Newcastle have done remarkable business. I do wonder if it's Mike Ashley trying desperately to put them in the shop window so he can carry on saving the high street. But yeah, West Ham are log.
Yep, and from one West team that was trashed to another, we had West Bromwich Albion losing 0-3 to Leicester, 0.4 to 2.9. No, 3.0 on XG. So exactly the right scoreline, right, quote unquote, very heavy loaded word, take with a grain of salt, blah, blah, blah. Any words on Leicester? I said Vardy was going to be done, and then he scored a bunch. I still stand by the idea that Vardy's going to be done.
I mean, there were penalties.
Well,
there were penalties.
Penalties help.
Yeah, no shots on target against West Brom. Right. So you're all. No, I'm not one to defend you, Oscar, as you know.
Yes, well aware.
But I think that's it's. I also don't actually think Vardy's done, but this isn't evidence that he is
done.
Not
relatively speaking, he's still going to get like 10 goals or something, but he's not going to be in the Golden Boot race. Like that's where I'm at.
He won Golden Boot last year and scored 22 goals.
Yes,
he's
going to fall off a statistical cliff. He's so
23.
old and he relies on pace. Like, that just doesn't work out well.
But what I just mean in general is chances are he wouldn't be in that conversation anyway, because last year was a massively low scoring. When you think, I think the last 4 seasons, the Golden Boot has been won by people that have scored like 30, 29, 32, something like that.
It's higher than that usually, definitely.
I mean, they should just give the award to Timo Werner now. Honestly, get it over with. That's fine.
No goal earner.
Very good. Very good.
Robert Lewandowski.
Very good. Yes. All very funny things that you said. Tottenham 0, Everton 1. Tottenham look like trash. They are a bad team.
Speaking of all or nothing.
We went for the nothing option.
Still nothing. Season 2 of nothing. Brilliant. Jeff will be pleased. I wonder, because I finally gave in, my morbid curiosity gave in, and I watched it. And Oscar, you'd be very pleased to know that it is a full 100-mile-an-hour Jose Mourinho loving.
Oh, we watched it. Don't worry. We're enjoying it thoroughly.
Of course you are. Which is why I think it's hilarious that Jose is happy that the Amazon cameras aren't there this year. And it's like, mate, that's the only thing that's showing you in a good light. Like, it's not what's happening on the pitch.
A little bit of context is actually helping.
It's not your post-match interviews. It's you being a bit of a darling and like coming out and like... Who didn't feel for him when he rocked up on that game, like, just after Christmas and said, my dog died? Like,
yeah, that was sad.
You need that, because watching that performance on the pitch, that was fucking shit.
You need the context of Jose's dog dying to appreciate the manager and the man he is.
There was a couple of things, like there was one really nice link-up between Doherty and Kane, where Doherty probably should have scored. One time where Son played the ball into Kane, but then otherwise it just was a bit tired. And Everton look coherent. Everton are probably the most interesting team to me right now.
Everton could come in like 5th place, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's likely, but they're in that sort of pack of teams with your Arsenal, your Tottenham, your Leicester, your Wolves.
Why did I say at the beginning we wouldn't have hot takes? Just one game week in, Everton are finishing 5th.
No. I said they could because they're in that pack, that second pack.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a well-touted stat that James Rodriguez created 5 of the Opta trademarked chances, and no Everton player has done that in 2 years or something.
What was the pointless adjective they put at the end of that tweet?
Oh, hashtag creative, hashtag maestro.
No, it's not even. It'll be like, oh, James Rodriguez generated 5 chances, blah, 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 palmed. Like something like that. Like that's it. And you'll just be
totally
like,
random.
But they knew their midfield was shit, and they went out and bought a very good midfield. I mean, it's the Ancelotti link as well, because there's always that thing of all players coming in, but Ancelotti had Alan at Napoli, maybe another club, who knows? I don't know who these players are, let's face it. So, but knows how the player works. He's had James Rodriguez at least 2 clubs when he was at Bayern and Real Madrid, and tried to sign him for Napoli, didn't, bought him in. So he already knows exactly what he can do, how he's going to put him into his system. And then Doucouré knows the league, and so therefore knows about the intensity and those kind of things, and knows where he's going to be put in that team. And it just looked really, really threatening. Like they didn't have to excel themselves because Tottenham were just happy to also let them play, but they just didn't make any mistakes, and they just played. I mean, Calvert-Lewin had a fantastic header for the goal. Richarlison missed about 14,000 shots, which is just half of the course, really.
Oh, that one where he rounded the keeper and then just like...
and he could have just passed it to Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Anyone who's ever played FIFA was like, press triangle!
But no, Everton are definitely ones to watch. And they're not going to, like, for FPL as well, because they're not going to shoot up in price because people aren't going to be that bothered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Players that haven't even played yet are going to rise in price. That's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah. So I think similarly to when we were talking about Palace, though, I think that it's so tight in that pack of 5th to 9th, or however many teams it is. You got Tottenham and Arsenal, you have Wolves, Leicester, and Everton, right? And maybe one other team. And I think of those teams, Everton had the best window. So that might be enough to put them in the 5th place. Like, it really genuinely could be.
Everton need to sort out their midfield. They sign James, Allen, and Doucouré. Spurs need to sort out their midfield. They get Højbjerg.
And Doherty, who is not a midfielder.
Yep, that's why I didn't say his name. But I heard something on the Football Ramble the other day that was hilarious. That it's like, Spurs haven't replaced a player, really, since Wanyama. And it's like, that's actually kind of scarily bleak when you think about it. Jeff is going to send me fucking pelters up.
Oh, yeah. Our good friend and Patreon, Jeff Petter, is just like,
oh my goodness,
screaming at his speakers right now, whether he's in the car or at home or whatever. Spurs were the 13th best team under Poch, and they were the 12th best team under Mourinho. Like, that's just what the numbers were. This is just who they are. They're not a good team. And it's not like they went out and radically changed their squad or made big transfers or whatever. We did say if they can stay healthy, then that's their only way to potentially have a good run. Maybe that's not even enough. Who knows? Like, this is just who they are. Everyone was like, oh my God, Spurs look so bad here. Spurs blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, bro. This is just who Spurs are, and that's what they did. And they lost to a team that's probably better than them. Like, that's not that surprising to me. There we go. Let's move on to Monday then. Wolves look good, especially for a team that never took a break, so they still look like they're in form because...
Well, they didn't play a single preseason game because they played for what? 370 days continuously last year?
Yeah. But they came back and they just took off where they were last year. Wolves look very dangerous.
Yep.
Beefy boy Adama Traore looked fantastic in his new role at wingback. Looking very beefy. Just imagine how beefy he'd be if he went to the gym.
Never steps foot in a gym.
Never lifted once.
Can't even pronounce the word. Doesn't even know what it is.
Is this just a case of Wolves are who we thought they were?
I think so. I think they've got kind of a very cogent transfer philosophy in that if you're Portuguese, come along. They all know how to play with each other. And yeah, Nuno's a good coach. They managed to... I mean, imagine what they would have done last year if they didn't have that many fixtures. Like they had a mild drop off at the beginning. Like there was a drop off at the start of the year because they had the Europa League qualifiers and those kind of things, but nowhere near as much of a percentage change as say like Burnley the year before. Which
no,
I know
certainly
you can't really compare the two teams, but relative to their own positions, they really didn't suffer. And then they just kept playing games and kept winning games, and you're like, you should probably get knocked out of this competition now, so you can. Oh, okay, no, you're going to go another 3 rounds in that. And you're just going to keep playing, and you're going to go to Azerbaijan, and you're going to do this, and like, fuck. And to just sew up the game in 10 minutes, 9 minutes against Sheffield United. Like after that, the game was fairly even, but. Doesn't matter. You go 2-0 up after 10. I'll see you later. Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. The rest of that is sort of like an exercise in neither of us wants to hurt ourselves or overly exert ourselves this early in the season, right? Like my only sort of to sort of give a counterpoint there would be: are we worried about Doherty leaving, or is Adama's like more of a winger than a wing back? So is he going to be able to make that transition, or what?
I think it just changes slightly that wing back role. I mean, Doherty was really good at overlapping and he would ping in across every so often, but he was more about making the pass to the kind of inside man, looping round the left back and kind of getting the through ball on the other side to be inside the box. And if you've got a man that can run 80 miles an hour doing that, it's no problem. Like if you've got Traore as the overlapping player, not the one who's running forward holding up a player and then passing on, like you just get that extra, even if it's just an extra yard of separation to give you the time to play those balls into Jimenez, who is absolutely lethal and will always just be in the box. I don't think they suffer for Doherty being gone, really. And ostensibly, when you see that signing, or sorry, that sale of him at first, everyone was like, that is fucking mad. You're selling Matt Doherty for whatever it was, 15, 20 million. Madness. And then you're like, actually, when I think about it, if you just put Traore there, it's probably better.
No, and with Doherty's age profile, I think that was a very, very smart sale. Spurs fans were like, ooh, and I was like, really, guys? Like, he's old, and you just signed him to a bunch of years. Like, he's going to get a year or two of really, really good play for Spurs.
Does it improve Spurs' team? Yes. Is it going to completely improve their standing in the table? No,
and much like Willian, like Doherty is still a good player and he's gonna perform. But I think that from the Wolves' perspective or from the Chelsea perspective with Willian, I think it made more sense to sell than not. And so I'm with you, Chuck. I don't really worry about them.
He's not a player that you sign and go, he's going to be worth an extra 12 points in the table this year. You know what I mean?
No.
Like that is in no way to say he's not going to have an influence and have an impact and he's not a good player, but he's not the kind of signing that comes in and you can directly say, that guy, with what he does, will earn us X, Y, Z. He'll probably earn them less red cards because he's replacing Serge Aurier. So that's a reduction in some bad stats that you don't want. But yeah, sorry, Jeff.
Anything to chime in there, Ian, with Wolves or?
Well, they've made the best signing of the season with Nuno signing on for another 3 years.
Oh, that was today, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was Sunday. I think it actually went through.
That's the same thing.
3-year deal there, and like Chuck said earlier, it seems like something's being built. So yeah, nothing more to add other than that's as good as a signing for them, I think.
Excellent. So I guess that means that it is time to.
Kill this quickly because of copyright.
Yeah, I got a few seconds there. Ready?
Quick, no, you need to talk about it. I really like the use of the horns. The French horns give a real sense of almost like a hunt. Like they're going out to pursue the rebels in that way. And so I think it's really clever what John Williams has done there.
Chelsea!
There we
go!
Yeah. Nick to win against Brighton, didn't you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Shit how's the win against the Seagulls.
Anytime you can. Oh, by the way, I guess cue the other jingle for this segment.
Oh, they're better than they ought to be.
Burnley of the week.
Chelsea are the Burnley of the week to start off the season. I absolutely love it.
Oh, it was so delicious because you weren't watching it as well, and so you were like completely turned your phone off, and we were just messaging about it. And afterwards, I saw like they were Burnley of the week. I was like, can't wait. Oh my God! Against Brighton, you spent like 300 million quid, and you're Burnley in against Brighton. Oh, have a fucking word, mate.
Absolutely fucking delightful. Absolutely delightful.
Happy with it.
So that's obviously, just to go back for a second, that's a fucking testament to how much I love my wife, I guess, that I was willing to wait to watch Timo Werner and Kai Havertz's debut several hours.
This is true. Your marriage is built on a very secure bedrock, I must say.
I agree. She's great. So Chelsea, obviously 3-1 when it was 1.4 to 1.3 on XG, so probably a 1-1 draw would have been the most sort of representative of the chances created, although the adjusted goals thing that I was talking about did have it at pretty much exactly 3-1. It had it at 3.2 to 1.1, so not bad. But the story here, obviously... I'm just fucking happy. I'm just really happy. Like, what else is there to say? 3 goals and a win to start off the season. Liverpool overperformed their way to a title last year, so I'm not going to be mad that we overperformed to a 3-1 win.
That's true, actually.
Okay. You're using the Liverpool
That's the new
defense.
thing,
Yeah. The big story here was, other than Kepa being trash, obviously, Timo Werner and Kai Havertz's debuts. Let's start off with Timo Werner. That he was fucking spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
Very sharp.
Yeah?
He was running in behind so much, and it seems like they already had very specific tactical instructions to, the moment they get the ball in midfield, look up to see if he's making a run and just boot it into space.
Oh, he was a one-man counter-attack. He was just like, pew! Is he there? Oh, no, he's not. It would just be offside a lot.
Well, sure, actually, that's a good point. He was caught offside in the Bundesliga last year 43 times. By far the most for the league. For some context, Wolves were caught offside 49 times. The entire Wolves squad.
What was Harry Kane?
I don't know off the top of my head.
89.
87.
But, like, this is, like, insanely high compared to most teams. Like, I think the 10th most in the Premier League was, like, 53. So he's like, way the hell up there. And that's because he's fast and he's always making runs.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you've got that speed and those kind of things. Like, Harry Kane's offside a lot because he has to cheat because he's too decrepit. He can't do it. Werner will do it because he's hitting at pace, just going pew. It was a bit. You could tell he was so pissed off at the end that he hadn't scored. Which,
yes.
Well, in the post match, he said if a couple of passes had been a bit crisper, it'd have been all right. I mean,
the notable one there, as much as it makes me sad to say,
hi Barkley.
No, it was Ruben. I would say Ruben's wasted chance in the first half, second half. I don't know when it was, but Ruben had a very, very bad game.
But he was played the Chelsea system was. I'm going to be quite difficult. It's quite difficult to put this in the right way. Like, you could say it was a mess, but it's almost like a super fluidity, but without everyone having enough time to know what the other people are about. And so in that way, it becomes a great strength, but is also a weakness. And people, like, the amount of criticism for Ruben is insane, but some of it is fairly justified, but also the fact that he's not a second striker.
No, not at all. And the system, you talked about the system.
Is it not quite total football? Nearly total football. Partial equipment. Partial football.
Frank Lampard's brand of partial football.
We had five to six players that I would say walk straight into the starting 11 if they're healthy or available that were missing. Pulisic, Ziyech, Kovacic, Chilwell, and depending on where you stand right now, Aspi over Reece James.
Nah, Reece James.
I would actually rather they go with
Reece
James just to get him really going, because I think he has insane talent. Look at that fucking goal he scored. Holy shit.
That was Vincent Kompany. That was Vinny Kompany's goal.
I got hard Michael Essien vibes from 2007. Emphasis on hard. So, you're missing 5 to 6 starters. Like, that's going to look disjointed. Kai Havertz literally trained with the team 3 times before that match. I don't think he would have been starting if other people were healthy. I think they would have normally given him time to acclimate to the system and to the players and everything else. And he especially looked like he was worried about stepping on anyone's toes and was like choosing to sort of hang back and not put his mark on the game as much as he would normally be able to, I would think.
Nah, fuck that. You aren't. I don't think genuinely as a player, like, you come in, you've got a big price tag attached. There's a very good reason behind it because you're creative and that. You don't hold back because you're scared of upsetting someone. Like, in that situation.
No, not upsetting. I just think that, like, he didn't know where his teammates were going to be.
Oh, is that why he kept passing to no one or kicking it straight off the pitch?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Those weren't scuffed passes or anything, though. That was intentional because he wasn't sure who was there because
Correct.
they weren't all,
Yeah.
they weren't all
He
wearing
still
the
doesn't
same
know
colour.
what jersey color we wear, so that's part of what's happening.
They blended into the crowd, did they? Oh, there
Correct.
was no crowd. Okay.
Exactly right. No, he had 3 training sessions. Like, I'm not going to flip out. A lot of Chelsea fans are like, oh my God, we spent so much money. They
should be worried about how much money they spent on fucking Kepa.
Yes,
That's what they
that
should
is
be
much
still
more correct.
angry about.
I don't care how
they
good this Mendy kid is, or guy. I got to stay saying kid. I assume he's young because Chelsea are buying him. He's like 28.
28.
Yeah.
Few years, mate, you'll be calling them all kid. Don't worry about it.
Fuck you.
Right, son.
Hope they spend like £71 million just so I don't have to fucking hear about how Kepa's the most expensive goalkeeper of all time anymore. I'm so sick of hearing about that. Oh, no, I mean, half our squad was missing. A bunch of those guys had like no time to train with the team or 1 training session or 3 training sessions.
Yeah.
Like, and we got a 3-1 win. Why would I be anything other than extremely happy? This is exactly the kind of match last year that Chelsea would have bossed and then not won. Conceded from a corner, conceded from a set piece, like all of that shit. This is not a thing that would have happened last year, I don't think.
It did have shades at times, and like I'd messaged Ian to say that this does still look like a Chelsea that kind of knows they have to score 4 because they're going to concede 3. Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it, you can say it in a flippant way, but also genuinely that it's like there's no real, like, you don't have faith still in the defence, but that's not where the money's been spent. Fine.
No,
I've said
at the
before,
same time,
Chilwell isn't that defender.
He's better than Alonso. Alonso's a wing back.
True.
Chilwell is an attacking left back. And those are close to each other, but it's not the same thing. So I am confident that Chilwell will be at least a little bit better. This was last year's defensive line. Like, there was no new anything in there. So of course we looked shaky at the back. But we were missing reigning player of the year Kovacic. We were missing best attacking player on the team from last year, Christian Pulisic. We were missing, we talked about this, right? So I'm not flipping out. Timo has been with the squad the longest of the new guys, and he looked like it. He knew he was very sharp. And so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm just happy.
Mount looked like someone who was definitely playing for his place. Like,
Yes.
especially early in that game, he was everywhere. Like, he was the one player who was kind of disrupting the most and getting in there and actually winning second balls and trying, like, the most. Like, it was I've potentially only got 1 chance here, and no one might see me for more than 20 minutes until November, December.
Right. And I do, it makes me sad as such an intense Ruben Loftus-Cheek fan that he played poorly. Yes, he was kind of out of position. He was playing like a false 10, second striker, 4-2-3-1, middle of the 3 type of situation. That's not his like preferred place, obviously, but you got to make the most of the chances you get. And he did basically 0 things. Like, sure, I don't expect him to be the best false 10, but like do something. And I do think that like this is really his absolute last chance to make it at Chelsea. Last year would have been his year, especially with everything to make a mark, and then he had the fucking injury.
13 months he was out. Because he came off the back of the Palace loan, that got him an England selection, and it was like out of that then he got injured, and it was just such a shame. Like we said at the time, you just want to see him play because he is fantastic, but I just don't think being that advanced, like, he's the kind of player that can link the midfield and the front or be in the middle as long as he's got a bit more space to run in, and then it just wasn't working. He
was playing where I suspect Kai Havertz will normally play, which is as a sort of central advanced mid / second striker for Werner to play off of. And I think a position that he'd be more naturally suited to, it's definitely as deputizing, would be where Kovacic would normally play, which is where Jorginho was, which is in the sort of double pivot of the two, next to. Because his good thing is that he does ball progression. His dribbling is fantastic, and he knows how to transition the ball from midfield to attack. He's not as good as at receiving the ball once he's already in attack, which is kind of what they had him doing now. But it is sad. I really do think that, like, he's just going to end up having to go to, like, a mid-table team, a Palace, maybe go back to Palace, who was really good there. Like,
yeah, I'd take it.
I think his window to make it at Chelsea is very rapidly closing, and the fact that he played so poorly in this match when everyone else is going to be healthy pretty soon, and Havertz is going to want to play in his natural position, which is where Ruben was today, is not great.
And it's a pretty big gut punch for them all when Frank comes out and is quoted as saying it was something along the lines of, I didn't come to Chelsea to make us an academy club. Like last year isn't what we're going to be. That's not what we are. So you've got to kind of think that, like, okay, you're about man management. Well, Abraham, Mount, Rubin, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Reece James, who else? Like, all those players, it's a bit like, all right, mate, fucking hell. Like, so that's it. We're just never going to get the chance, or we're going to be farmed out, or we're going to whatever. And you know what I mean? After last year, it's just a very strange thing. I mean, it can easily be taken out of context, but I'm pretty sure that was on like a proper Chelsea page.
I watched that. It was his press conference before the first match of the year. I watched that whole thing, and to put it into a more of a context, someone asked him like, hey, how do you feel? Like, you had almost no expectations last year. It was sort of a free pass. This year, obviously, with everything you guys have spent, how do you feel about expectations? How do you think you're going to manage that? And he was like, I didn't fucking come here to finish fourth and bring up a bunch of kids. I came here to win titles, and I embrace those expectations because those are the expectations that a club like Chelsea Football Club should have on them. I'm here to win. I'm not here to do anything else. And I think meaning Oscar Puente, retroactive take on last season and the youth and the academy and all that, it felt at the time a bit like, oh, we're creating this new dynasty. These guys are going to be playing in blue regularly, all that sort of stuff. And then obviously this year we went in and signed a bunch of people in the summer.
Just a few. My
sort of retroactive take on last year is that we got a lot of information about a bunch of very young players that we would not have gotten information out of in a regular season. And now either we know that Reece James is probably good enough, Mason Mount is probably going to be able to get some minutes, Tammy is going to be able to compete, or the alternative flip side there is they generated a bunch of value if we're going to sell them like we usually do with youth. Like, that's kind of our deal, is we buy every young talented person we can find and then sell them at a profit, right? And so, like, at the very least, if those guys don't end up making it at Chelsea fully all the time regular, we did increase their sale values like by an insane amount. Like, think about how much we could get for Mason Mount now.
Yeah.
Or any of those guys. Like, we could make fucking bank. And last year, they were just like academy guys that no one really knew or had done well in the championship. So if nothing else, at least we got that. I do think that some of them are going to stick around. But I think Frank is exactly right, man. Like, it was funny over the weekend. I had to keep, like, correcting myself because I'm so used to, over the last few years, watching for the results of, like, a Leicester or an Arsenal or a United and being like, oh, good, Leicester dropped points. Great, that's good for us. And I was doing that. I got annoyed when Leicester scored. And then I stopped for a second and I was like, wait a minute.
That's not the level you should be judging yourself.
Fuck about Leicester. Yeah, fuck Leicester. Who are they? Like, I'm looking at Liverpool dropping points. I'm looking at City dropping points. If we come less than 9 points behind whoever wins, or rather, more than 9 points. If we have to be double digits points behind whoever wins the title, at least. Like, that is minimal expectation here. And so I really am looking at the results of Liverpool and City and being like, okay, these are the clubs that we need to be hitting the same points. We need to be doing stuff. And we're above Liverpool after 1 week and we play them next week. Like, obviously it's just on goal difference and it's the first week of blah, blah, blah. But, like, we play Liverpool next weekend. We just beat them in the restart. We took them to penalties last year at the beginning of the year. Like, we were, like, right up there in all of our matches, even last year with Liverpool. And that's ignoring all the new guys, right? So, like, it's hard to readjust expectations. And it did bum me out that it's been, like, 4 years or however long since, like, we were a team that cares about title points, not fourth place points. Basically, we turned into an Arsenal for a few years there, which is, like, fucking pathetic. Shout out to Arsenal for being pathetic.
I mean, Arsenal turned into an Everton, so...
Right, exactly. And Everton are turning into a Wolves. It's just getting very confusing now. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel great. We got a 3-1 win. We were missing half our squad. Timo Werner looked good. Kai Havertz had a flash of a couple of moments where he looked decent. And he's 3 days into the squad. Like, I think people were expecting, like, oh, you Burnley'd. Oh, that's so sad. Isn't that so sad? You spent so much money and you Burnley'd.
It's fucking hilarious.
It's great. I love that we Burnley'd because we couldn't have Burnley'd last year. We never Burnley'd last year. And we're going to, like, Kai's going to be much better. That's not what Kai Havertz is going to be all season. And we're going to bring in all these guys. Like, I feel fucking great, man. And we're ahead of Liverpool.
There we go.
Hey, I only took like 15 minutes there. I'm feeling pretty good. Do you guys want to chime in on Chelsea?
No.
Anything to add?
I think you've covered it all. I think you're perfectly right to be happy with that result, and like you say, happy that you overperformed.
I think Palace and Chelsea are in the same points, the same positives. You see what I mean? Like,
yes,
this week, and the same points, numbers. That's how it works, guys.
That's stats.
So yeah, we've all got things to be happy about. Peterborough have got injuries as well. Half the squad. Oh, they're just unlucky. They were.
No, that's happened.
No, that's happened. You just sold your best player.
All right, this is the part of the podcast where I hand it off to someone else because I am done hosting about the fixtures. So someone else take this away with some listener questions or predictor league or whatever else is happening now.
Invariably, what happens is Oscar takes up 80% of the body of the show, and then Ian gets none.
That's how I like it. That's fine.
A very
That's
brief
absolutely
appearance from Ian's hole. Bringing it back.
Okay. Well, why don't we briefly just talk about, because Oscar just mentioned it there, the predictor league, Chuck. What were entries looking like
entries
in the end?
were strong, man. We've got 32 people in this year. It's crowded. It's crowded in there. So it's good. Thank you all for entering. Some old names, some new names. There's a brother and sister team. Well, not team. You know what I mean? Like they're fighting it out against each other.
Bitter
father
rivals,
and son.
Sure.
We've got two father and sons, in fact.
Of course we have.
I forgot about this. We've got Wags, 2 Wags in the league, so it's great. So much like Match of the Day used to do, I won't be giving out the scores until about game week 5 because none of it means nothing. But just in case you're wondering, at the minute I'm beating you two.
Oh, good. This is how it should be, though. You're supposed to win this year.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
So I'm not even mad about it, honestly.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. So stay tuned for that in about 5 weeks.
All right, great. What
Excellent.
about the FPL head-to-head, huh?
Let's talk
fucking
FPL.
talk about
Come
what about
on.
FPL? Oh, I'm not playing this year, guys.
Yeah.
I've,
Well, I was absolutely stunned to find that you had triple captained.
Yeah, I did it to be funny.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now it's to be funny, but if it had paid off,
I thought
it
it'd
was
be funny
brilliant,
because that's why I didn't tell you. And I thought, hey, triple captain.
You
to make
didn't say
shit yourself.
a fucking
To be
dicky
fair,
bird.
Aubameyang, like he came close, and you think I'm pretty sure against Fulham last year, like he came off the bench and got 2 goals and an assist. So I was like, fuck it. And then just like last year, because you put it on Salah and
Yes,
and
exactly
Sterling
the same.
got a hat trick last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Last year Salah scored 1 goal.
So
yeah,
wait,
exactly
what
the
we
same.
can infer from this is that next year Aubameyang will score a hat trick on opening day. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, but 55 points, which is pretty shit when you play a triple captain. But he got a point. He got 7. So you know what I mean. That's all right.
Yeah, it's a return.
It's still it's early, but there's a lot of people making a lot of moves. Like Kevin De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes are going to go up in price tonight, even though they haven't played, as well as a load of other players who haven't played. Who went up last night? Williams gone up. Patrick Bamford went up. Nicolas Pepe went down, naturally.
Yeah. Surprised he had any owners to go down.
It's incredible.
Yeah, anyway.
But
yeah, so first blood to me.
So that's 1-0. Although we did say, you'll probably win, and then I'll somehow win on points, and it will just be a bit weird.
Tired, yeah. But still, you got to let me have my moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got the Mop League.
It's just drifting past it.
I am. It's 1 week. It's 1 week, man. It was pretty shit.
That's true. It's true. But it's 1 week more than I've got most of the fucking last.
This is true. Shout out to Andy Penpraise, who is currently winning our Patreon league with a great score of 85.
Fucking A, that's very good. Who's in last place?
You.
Nah, I'm not playing this year, thank you very much.
Well,
specifically,
you wrote a formula of which you were going to pick the team by, and that team is losing.
Yes, not good. It's a work in progress,
Yeah.
It's not this is not a team built for one week at a time. It's built for 5 weeks at a time. So we'll see what happens. But it's an experiment.
So this is Oscar's community led. Well, no, not sorry, stats led.
Basically, he usurped me.
Well, it was more interesting to have you guys play each other.
Yeah, but I already feel like my contribution to this podcast and the miles offside oeuvre is minimal at best. And then
we also feel that way.
It's not time to make a change.
While we're on the Stats Robot team, I will not be doing a transfer this week. I want to save it and have 2 to play with so that we have more options.
Still young. That's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Sorry, I still have Father and Son in my head from when I did Predictor League earlier.
Lovely song.
Great song.
Lovely
Yusuf
song.
Islam.
So yeah, sorry, Oscar, we were listening. What are you doing with the Stats Robot team?
We're going to roll the transfer this week.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Just going to roll it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's no changes necessary with how many
I
points
stand
did he
by
score?
those picks. I think, I don't stand by those picks. The model stands by its picks.
Okay.
This is not my team. I need to reiterate that as many times as possible, especially to Chuck.
That's it.
Because he's going to keep saying that it's my team, and it's not my team.
Distance yourself from it. Distance yourself from having John Lundstrom.
He was inches away from scoring,
Nick Pope.
so I'm okay with that.
Oh, did you say Dunk? Dunk was
Also
inches
Dunk.
away
Yeah,
as well.
both of those guys.
Harder to miss than score. that
Jordan
one.
Henderson. Iosi Perez.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Be interested.
Got wood on your bench.
Hey.
Okay, and I mentioned Patreon there as well, which is
You
seamless
did.
segue. We have a Patreon. We're not going to whore ourselves out that much, are we?
We have 8. We have 3 new Patreons.
Oh shit! Yeah, we've got because we've recorded
It is
so
popping
long.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got Tom Townley. We got Padful. And Rob Heppenstall.
Hey,
Seemed
good.
almost
doing the Lambeth walk. Hey.
Last one seemed like you were taking the piss somehow.
No, I'm happy to join all of
Okay.
them. Thanks for joining us on the Slack as well. We still do have some of our Patreons that aren't on the Slack. Come join us. There's lots of good chat. It's not just like 3 of us talking now. Even Oscar's joined because he gave in
There's
to
a few
peer
more of
pressure.
us now.
Yeah, even I'm in there.
Yeah, now there's a few more people ignoring me.
I add somebody must like my stats work in those spreadsheets because we're getting new Patreons. So
Yeah, you are getting people
Yeah.
requesting the actual information, mate. So if you can send that out.
maybe we should not update on how the Stats Robot FC team is doing so that we continue to get
Just leave that
Patreons
for a
who
little
think that the spreadsheets are useful.
Yeah, I mean, the information's public domain.
But if you want to join in, it's patreon.com/milesoffsidepod. I might be reading between the lines, but I think that all those guys who joined said it's the best decision they've ever
Probably.
made.
If anything, it said that because we're a voice of a generation.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them have got kids and they still say it's the best decision they've ever
Wow.
made.
Well, yeah, no shit.
You know.
Obviously.
That is obviously true.
No doubt about that. Not having kids is the best decision I ever made.
A time drain that only costs you a few dollars a month. Why not? Why not?
Oh, God. One day they'll discover this podcast. One day. Fucking hell.
Finley has. He's in the league.
Billy's in the fucking FPL league and the Predictor league now. I'm
Yeah.
blown. God, he's going to start listening soon.
Well, he is double digits and he's got his own phone now, so
Yeah.
he could download this on the low and you guys wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Hi, Finley.
Yeah, could happen. I mean, I hope not. God, that explicit tag. Do you think that's keeping him away?
Doubt it.
Oh dear, no, probably not. But yeah, Finley did a fantasy football team about half an hour before the deadline.
What a bloody lad.
So
I look forward to losing to him this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, exactly. Me too. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be usurped by my son at such a young age, but it's
But
surely
mate,
going to happen.
it's a Highlander situation, man. There can be only one.
Right, why don't we do some listener questions? It's been a while because the format had to change a bit post lockdown because there were so many games. We were trying to churn out episodes. We had to just keep it tight, which is something we've never done before.
No.
So,
And failed miserably at trying to do that.
Exactly. So we thought we'd bring back listener questions. So, new Patreon, Tom Townley, he asks, burger of choice. Do you like it classic, clean, simple, or do you like every filling imaginable, or somewhere in between? Is there any place for an egg or a pineapple or an avocado in a burger, other than in Shoreditch, where you'd be able to get that sort of filth? So, what's your thinking burger wise?
Well, I have my famous strawberry burger that I brought up a few seasons ago and everyone thought was disgusting.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but it's
So pineapple's totally fine.
course.
I'm fine with pineapple.
But you said your burger of choice.
No, that's not my burger of choice. My burger of choice is just like diced grilled onions and cheese. That's it.
Like
Very
you're not a
ketchup.
veg. You're not a veg man, are you?
No.
No. Like you're colorblind. You're colorblind in terms of not being able to see the color, and also you like your food to match.
Well,
Beige.
actually, there is a lot of research that colorblind people are pickier eaters because vegetables and stuff looks already rotten to us.
Yeah,
but
when you see pictures like of food where like you're seeing what a colourblind person sees, it does look awful, undiscernible. Yeah, just it must take something out of food. I must admit.
vegetables. It takes the vegetables out of food.
The health. I downloaded an app to do that, and like looked at my dinner with it, and I was like, "Fuck if I'm eating that." Like it's just garbage.
That's my life, buddy.
Oh,
That's why. No wonder you're so malnourished.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine is like ketchup and grilled onions. But if I am feeling spicy, I love a breakfast burger, so a fried egg on top is not bad. And if I, in the summertime, a pineapple or a strawberry on top of a burger, or even inside the meat, if you dice up the strawberries and just put them in as like
So
a...
this
So
goes
weird.
back to many episodes ago when we were talking about food, and Oscar, what was it, tripped and dropped some strawberries on a burger?
Yeah, no,
and then...
the origin of it was we were at a summer barbecue and the burgers were on the same plate as like the fruit plate or whatever.
Of course.
And so a
probably.
strawberry just like snuck into the burger and I bit it and I was like, what the fuck is with this burger? And then it was a strawberry and I was like, that's actually kind of delicious. Maybe I'll try this on purpose. And it turned out great. So I love a strawberry. Diced strawberries in the ground beef, cook the burger, delicious. But my go-to is definitely onions.
I can hear Tom cancelling his Patreon membership as we speak.
I mean, he asked about pineapples, so...
Yeah, I do wonder whether.
That's not
Yeah,
far
I do
off.
wonder what his.
I'm okay with pineapple in
yeah.
like a chicken burger. I don't feel like it has any place in a beef burger.
Did you just say chicken burger? Get the fuck out of here. A burger
Yeah.
is a beef. Ground beef burger. There's no such thing as a chicken burger. There's
Well,
chicken
no.
sandwiches.
Yes.
There is. That's why it's called chicken burger.
Nah, I'm like that guy who rallied against boneless wings at his state assembly house.
Chicken fists. They should be called chicken fists.
Chicken fists.
Anyway.
Oh, I tell you what, if there's a gap in the market, Chuck, we should have it. Miles offside chicken fists.
Ooh, they're better than they ought to be.
All right, come on. You're a chef. Let's hear your burger. What do you got?
I was going to say just I like pineapple if I was to get a chicken sandwich then in Nando's. Extra spicy. So,
Oh, I see.
First of all, I like my burgers well done. Don't care about this medium rare, any of this bullshit. It gets more flavour. The browning just makes it taste so much better. With only the slight increased chance in cancer. Then I like almost like a mushroom Swiss,
It's a trade-off.
like grilled mushrooms and like same as you, Oscar, like fried down onions, and then maybe like an Emmental, like Swiss cheese kind of style. Maybe even as a dip, like a French dip, with a bit of bacon in there with a jus. That's like the best burger for
Wow,
me. I
good
really want to
lord.
try. I've read this stuff about smash burgers.
Do you
and
guys have smash burger over there?
They've started to come over here a bit, but I meant kind of more in terms of the cooking theory as opposed to it being a brand. Like, I'm not sure if it is.
Oh, there's a chain here, like Five Guys. There's one called Smash
Okay,
Burger.
cool. So basically, you take the meat, and obviously the idea is you don't want to handle the meat as much as possible because the more it breaks down, is then the softer it gets, and it's not quite conducive to the method. And then you have like smaller patties, and then you literally take like almost looks like an old school iron, and you basically press the burger down into a flat top. Like a flat top grill or a plancha, something like that.
Directly onto
the heated metal.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, because it spreads out and it's uneven and the edges aren't so defined, you get the ratio of the crispiness from the Maillard reaction to the meat. It just makes it a much better flavour, and I really want to try it.
Huh.
You can kind of
good.
simulate it if you have it at home with like a cast iron pan. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, that's how I make my burgers at home. That's like the more normal way to do it here.
Yeah, maybe. It's more like that's the style in America anyway. Like it's normally thinner patties, multiples.
True.
That's starting to kind of
Right.
have an influx here more.
Ian, where are you at on burgers?
Like the sweetness doesn't jive with me. I'm not. I mean, I would be willing to try a strawberry burger, as I've said before, but still have never done it. Because every time I do a burger, I would think, oh, do I want to necessarily waste this by then
Do I wanna
putting
fuck this
strawberry on
up?
it that I wouldn't like? Yeah. I don't like the idea of sweetness. I like the idea of acidity, and so I like gherkins and pickles.
Yeah,
And
got pickles.
I don't know if I'm having that. Then I mean, a pretty simple cheese. I don't think I'd go like my first thought was like a Monterey Jack, like a chili cheese or something. But I don't know. It depends what I feel.
You
Depends what I feel like.
You want a black and blue burger, mate. That's what you
I
want.
do like a black and blue burger. That's a good point, actually. I do like a black
I
and blue.
know you, Stimson.
You do, yeah.
I can cut to the core of you.
Yeah.
What about chains? What's your burger chain of choice?
Burger chain of choice. I don't know because
I don't really have a chain. I'm not a big burger eater.
No, neither am I, to be honest.
Like, most of the time, if I go out, I would never have a burger, like, because 90% of the restaurants you go to, it's just that, like, they have burger on there because something to just appeal for people that don't want to eat a different cuisine.
AKA American tourists.
Yeah, almost like when you order a Chinese and, like, there's omelette and chips on there for some reason.
We don't have that here, so... That's really fucking weird.
On the menu, they
not
put it on there. Yeah, no, I don't order. It doesn't come with it. But the same, like curry, like Indians or curry houses or whatever, will have like chips and whatever, or like omelette and chips.
They'll always
on there as
be
well,
like yeah.
Why?
Who's ordering that? Yeah.
Who's going there for that? Why?
Yeah.
All right.
So more like your sort of, I don't know, New Yorker burger, a lot of sort of gherkins and cheese and...
Aren't gherkins the thing that actresses wear on their parts? First, like, it's like a wig.
No, that's merkins. That's
merkin.
merkins.
What the fuck's a gherkin then?
A merkin's
A
a
pickle.
cockpit.
A gherkin's a pickle.
Oh, a pickle. Okay, cool. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued by the fact that you thought...
I thought he was going down like I was like they wear wouldn't it like burkas?
Yeah,
Is he thinking of burkas?
That went a strange way. Yeah. Okay.
Sure did. All right, let's go a strange way on the next question. What do we got?
Well, no, we'll go back to football. So Jeff Pedder, he's not listening anymore to this episode, is he? So it doesn't even matter that we can answer his question. But he asks, what are our predictions for who will win the Championship, League One and League Two?
Oh, well, this is good. Considering we claim to be a Premier League podcast that, I mean, some hosts don't realise that teams have been in the league for 3 to 4 years.
Oscar's honest about he's addicted to success.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is, at the same time, I also can't profess to really care that much. Because I feel like especially because I have a team that is fairly often in jeopardy of being relegated to said leagues, is that then it's like, I've got to learn about another 23 teams.
Yeah, it is a lot, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, and like I'd have to get invested.
Yeah.
But go on, Oscar, I'd be intrigued to see if you could even name some.
Now, I did notice this question on the Patreon Slack, and I thought it would be better if I didn't look up what teams are in what league, because it'd be more entertaining for you guys.
Yeah.
So I genuinely don't even know if these teams are going to be in the right leagues.
Okay.
I'm going to say... Shit, who went down that shouldn't have gone down? Aston Villa. Wait, no, they stayed up. Shit.
No, they stayed up.
God damn it. I knew that was going to happen. Are QPR in the Championship? I'm going to say QPR. If they're in the Championship, they'll win it.
QPR
There you go.
in the
QPR is going to win the
Yes,
Championship.
They are correct. I will. So, as an aside to this, I currently have the 538 page open. As I know you love this page. And according to 538, QPR have a 7% chance of getting promoted.
Oof.
Oh, not even.
So, yeah, 1%. Although, it must be said that the Championship is much more even in that the odds to win it, like the highest probability is 25%.
Oh, that's really low. Yeah.
So it is quite tight down there. You could have said Bournemouth. Bournemouth are apparently our favourites to win the Championship for some reason.
Are they?
Watford, second favourites, and Norwich, third favourites. So the 3 teams that have just gone down. Brentford are kind of the interesting ones because they've come close. I like
Brentford
them.
do a lot of analytics work too. Like the guys who founded StatsBomb used to work for Brentford like 10 years ago before anybody had analytics.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
And they've got Ivan Toney as well. They've got the magic ingredient. They've got Ivan Toney.
Can I change my answer to Brentford?
Yeah, go on then.
There you go.
Why not?
Right, I like 'em.
Brentford's my answer.
Let's go.
To win the league? Are we saying win the league? Because at the minute, Watford haven't really changed their team apart from Decore. I mean, naturally they've changed their manager. But Brentford. You're saying Brentford.
Ivan Toney's Brentford.
Okay, yeah, fuck it. Championship winners, Brentford. Shout out to Sheffield Wednesday, currently on -9 points. Only a 29% chance of being relegated. So, you know.
Fair enough.
When you're on -9, that's...
Yeah. It's a bad start.
Yeah.
League One, gotta go Posh. I know they're in there.
Yes, please.
That's the only team that I know are in League One. I think Sunderland might be down there, right? Because didn't they get double relegated?
Yeah, Sunderland will be up there.
Yeah. But I'm going to go Posh.
So, formerly Ivan Toney's Peterborough have a 4% chance of winning League One.
4? And
an 18% chance of being promoted.
Bullshit, it's got to be higher than that.
Well, you're 5th favourites at that.
Fuck.
So Hull are favourites to win the league at 36%.
They're in League One?
Hull?
Ouch.
Yeah, they just had double relegation. Yeah.
R.I.P. Hull.
Well, not double relegation, they just got relegated, sorry.
I don't fear Hull in the slightest.
But they look like tigers.
Grr.
Grant McCann's Hull. No, he'll do us a favour, Grant McCann. He's old posh.
There you go. Sunderland are second favourites at 16%, so it's quite a big drop-off. Then Ipswich... it's whatever. Then Charlton, they're not going back up, mate. No fucking way. And then Peterborough. And you're ahead of Oxford. Or
What about
Cambridge?
Portsmouth?
You hate? Portsmouth are 3% to win the league, 12% promoted. So they're 3 places behind you.
I feel like these are a
but
bit
not
off to me, but fair enough.
It's very tight. And what you've got to remember is they've adjusted all of their percentages because there's no crowds at any games.
Yeah, okay.
As well, so that's made messes of many things. And Northampton, Rochdale, and Crewe.
Northampton, fuck the Cobblers, fuck them.
Okay.
That's the old enemy, that is.
There we go.
Yeah.
I agree. Whatever team that was that you guys just said, I hate them also.
The Cobblers, fuck the Cobblers.
The Cobblers from
Northampton.
Northampton. There you go.
Yeah.
Supported by Patreon Johnny Worthington, maybe, depending on which week it is.
Genuinely did not know that was a team that existed. So
Some weeks Northampton, some weeks Norwich, other weeks Liverpool. You
Who
can
knows?
guess which one takes priority.
League 2, what are we looking at there?
League 2. Now, genuinely, there's a lot of teams in here that I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Decent.
are there any
No.
former
No.
Premier League teams that I would have heard of in League Two?
Yeah, Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton.
Bolton. Oh,
Yeah, they've got to be the pick for me, I think.
Jesus, they're
to
in
go
League
up.
2? Rest in R.I.P. Bolton.
Yeah, they-
Fucking A.
Well, they nearly went out of business.
Yeah.
Are Forest Green Rovers there? I randomly like that club.
Yes, I think they are League 2.
I mean, they are 14% to win it, and naturally, new money destroying football thing. Salford City,
of course.
Salford City are the favourites to win League Two
Are
after
they?
10 promotions in their
Yeah.
11-year history.
They charge up the pyramid. They're the dream, Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, the dream.
59% chance to be promoted into formerly Ivan Toney's Peterborough's League One.
As they
Okay,
will forever
so
be known.
Oscar, you're saying Brentford?
For League 2, League 1, Brentford, whatever league they're in.
Championship.
Championship.
Championship, there you go.
Peterborough for League One?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good man. Yeah, let's all go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going Brentford, we're going Peterborough, and then Forest Green Rovers. Is that who you're saying?
One of my friends from grad school, his dad was from that town, I guess, and was a Forest Green Rovers supporter. So we would get drunk and watch Chelsea matches, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna support Forest Green Rovers because you're so cool about Chelsea. I tried buying a jersey of theirs; it was not available to get to my country.
No.
They're like the environmentally friendly club, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
I mean, green's in the name,
And-
so
Yeah, they're super about the
Everything, I think.
yeah, vegan and anti-climate change, like all the food
They are.
trucks
They're the
and
first
stuff.
vegan club.
Yeah.
vegan.
They're
Ugh.
complete, like, all the players.
Oh, Oscar's all
yeah.
turned around.
Can I
now.
rescind? Fuck that. No, I'll just eat more meat to make up the difference for them. It's fine.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
There you go then. So Brentford, Peterborough, and Forest Green Rovers on the move. And that kind of wraps us up with questions. Let's rapid fire fixtures for next week. Our top fixture is, Everton versus West Brom. Then we've got Leeds versus Fulham, Man United Palace, Arsenal West Ham, Southampton Spurs, Newcastle Brighton, Chelsea Liverpool. Big game. Leicester Burnley, Aston Villa Sheffield United, Wolves Man City. They're all on at different times. They're all on TV. Football's back, baby. Touch me.
That was very succinct.
I know, right?
Absolutely.
Oscar, thoughts on Chelsea Liverpool?
Uh,
I will give you 20 seconds.
People are going to think I'm insane for saying this, but this is the first title 6-pointer of the season, so it's massively important. It's a big statement for either of the clubs to win. 538 has us at about even for both draw, Chelsea win, or Liverpool win. Liverpool win is the slightly favorite of the 3 outcomes, but it's pretty close between all 3. Curious to see if Pulisic is back or Aspi is back, if he even plays above Reece James.
20 fucking seconds.
And we're done. But I think Chelsea are going to win.
Okay.
As early as it is in the season, that would be huge for you.
Chelsea are going to win, and Timo Werner's going to score. So put your
There we
bets
go.
down now.
Yeah, that's big. Big money bets on that. There's a few other interesting ones in there, like Southampton coming back against Spurs. Like, the Spurs then lose to Southampton. Newcastle playing Brighton. That's another team. Like, it could be interesting to see how that plays out. And Wolves Man City is always a good fixture.
Wolves Man City,
Yeah.
I was going to say, that is an interesting
to
one.
end the game week. I mean, how long have Man City had since they played a game, for fuck's sake? Like, they're the last game on Monday. But yeah, that'll be interesting. If they don't, Wolves could hurt them.
Wolves could hurt them for sure. And they didn't end up getting Lionel Messi. We never talked about that. Disappointed.
Nah.
Disappointed but thrilled because that helps Chelsea's title chances. So
what, Man City not having Messi. That tends
absolutely.
That tends to help. Yeah. And naturally, Palace are going to win at Old Trafford. So bet big, babies. Michy Batshuayi to score anytime. Werner to score, Chelsea to win anytime. Double up on that, mother lickers. And that's where we'll leave you. So thank you very much for today, Oscar Puente.
Thank you. Up the Blues, Evil Empire. Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you, Ian Stimson.
Cheers.
And thanks to all of you listening out there. Football's back, baby. We're going on a fucking European tour. Lads, 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 lads.